All right, guys. So we are jumping into the core motivations. Now, this series is going to go for 4 series. Yes. The core motivations are going to help you to understand why you think, feel, and behave in the particular ways that you do, and also your friends, your spouse, your parents, your coworkers. Why do we do what we do? Well, what's running in the background are these core motivations that drive us. Okay. So what we're going to be covering is the core fears first. These are the things that you cannot allow to happen. If this happens, it feels like the world is about to end. And so you do everything possible to prevent your core fears from happening. You also have core desires, the things that if I have this, life will be perfect. And then we have the core weakness. It's also called the passion or the deadly sin by other teachers. And the core weakness is like that thorn in our side that we keep asking the Lord to remove from us. It's our Achilles heel. It's where we're really weak. But in God's grace, He is sufficient for us, right? And His power is made perfect in us. And then we have our core longing. Now, the core longing is that message that all of our hearts have longed to hear, first from our parents, teachers, friends, and then maybe coworkers, spouses, children, and on and on. And when people don't give us that message to the degree that we feel like we need it, we get upset, hurt, on and on. But only one source can give us the core longing, and that's Christ. And the good news is He has already accomplished that for us, and we will get into that in that series. But for now, in this week coming up, we are going to be covering the core fears. This is what you're always trying to prevent from happening, and you're really afraid that you're going to be stuck in this situation and circumstance. So as you go about your everyday life, what I'd love for you to see is how are you interpreting the world through the lens of your type, and how are you getting activated inside thinking that maybe a core fear actually is happening, and how do you navigate that? What are you doing to stop it, to get around it, and to, yeah, just to avert it? And a lot of times that could be our behaviors, the way we talk. Maybe we cry, maybe we yell, maybe we avoid. There's so many ways that we do these things to avoid or prevent our core fears from happening. But that's really important, because if you're in a relationship with someone and you think your core fear is about ready to happen, you're going to be activated. And then you're going to move in a certain behavior or attitude or thought process that could potentially not be very beneficial for you and the relationship. But if you can pause and think through why you're activated, what's going on, and then ask clarifying questions, you might be able to avert the situation in the way that you normally would have handled it. And maybe there's a better way. Maybe your core fear wasn't even happening at all, or not to the degree you thought it was. And you don't have to react in the manner you typically have. So this coming series, check your heart, see when it's activated. Don't get on yourself. Do this in a non-judgmental way. Just be a friend. How are you activated? What triggers you? And then bring clarifying statements to others that need to know that these are happening for you. Okay? All right, we'll jump in with type 9 tomorrow. Type 1s, your core fear is being bad, evil, wrong, corruptible, unredeemable, making mistakes, doing things wrong, being condemned. These are all really big things for you, right? And for you, it's all about being accurate and precise, doing what is right, to being good, ethical, balanced, right? Those are really, really important things for you. This isn't just about a successful image, people admiring your image. This is about true right and wrong. For you, the inner critic is really loud, and she is pointing out everything that is going wrong and is constantly on you to correct them and to fix them. And you fear that you will not be able to stand up rightly, to be in the presence with others, that you will only be condemned and found fault with. That is so scary for you. And it's really scary when you feel like no one else cares and that no one else is standing up and doing what is right. So that totally makes sense. But here's the thing. Christ understands that fear. Actually, He understands it so much that in Romans 5:8, it says that Christ came while you and I were still sinning. He wasn't like, hey, you better get your stuff together and then I'll come. No, he knew you were sinning. He knew you couldn't rescue yourself. He knew you could not make it perfect. So he came and lived a perfect life on your behalf and mine, so that by trusting in him, he puts on us his righteousness and wipes away all of the sin and the shortcomings that we have. So no longer do you need to have this fear. It will still be there, trust me. But you can talk to yourself and help yourself to understand, yes, that fear is really real. And of course, we don't want to sin. Paul even talks about it. Yeah, we don't want to abound in sin and test grace. At the same time, when we do make mistakes, Christ is there advocating for us on our behalf, and we are safe and secure in his righteousness, not ours. So navigate your world from a new perspective that you can apologize and move forward, because the Holy Spirit is right there with you, interceding for you all the time. Type 2s, your core fear is the fear of being rejected, worthless, dispensable, of having no value, not being needed or wanted, and definitely not being loved. So 2s, for you, the really big word for you is rejected. You feel like in order to receive love, you have to give something. You have to serve, maybe give advice, care, support, nurture. It could be lots of things, but you have to give of yourself towards someone who has a need, and that you have to forego your own needs and emotions to focus on others. If you don't do that, you fear you will be devalued, worthless. Someone will just, I don't need them. That is a really big fear. And it drives you into seeing other people's needs and feeling their emotions. And then the more you feel desperate for this kind of love, the more you're going to insert your help and your advice and your care into other people's lives. And sometimes in a way that maybe wasn't wanted or needed, but you really felt like it was, because you're so desperate to hear from them. Thank you so much. That was so amazing. But here's the good news. I know that feels really real, but Christ has already secured for you his love for you. He literally came from heaven down to earth to pursue you. He wanted you, to bring you back to himself in right relationship. You can't have any more than that, right? Now, I know that's a lot of head knowledge. It's really hard to get that to sink down into the heart. But over time, as you recognize how your core fear activates you, and you really feel like the need to move into people's lives to show that you have worth and value, and that you can help them, that you're needed, rest. Rest in the fact that Christ has met your needs first. Rest in those, take those, absorb them, delight in his care, because you will be replenished in a way that you can truly then give to others without the same fear, because the fear isn't real. You are wanted and you are loved. 3s. So your core fear is being a failure, not having success, not being admired, being worthless, inefficient, and exposed. For you, you really feel like you have to have a really dynamic image to present in front of everyone in order to be loved, because you don't feel like who you really are is enough, that you have to have something grandiose, something really special and dynamic for people to see and to be amazed by, to be in awe. That really will feel like you have value and worth. But that is exhausting, right? Because this fear of being a failure, inefficient, exposed drives you each and every second of the day, right? You feel like at any moment, that last success that I had 5 minutes ago, okay, well, that was great, but now I have to have another and another. My husband was a place kicker in college, and there's the saying, you're as good as your last kick. Well, that's what it feels like for a 3. You're as good as your last success. And this fear of, if I don't get another, what will happen? Will I be loved? I have to have the success of whatever it is, or the image of success, in order to secure my place as lovable and for others to value me. But that's not true. Christ comes not because you've done anything fabulous, but because he loves you and he wants you for exactly who you are. So I know this fear feels very real, but it's not true. And in fact, Christ accomplished everything for you, and his perfect success is your success. So the core fear, though it feels so real, is actually not true. You are safe and secure in his accomplishments and in his love towards you. Type 4s. Your core fear is the fear of being mundane, boring, like everybody else, to not be able to display your authentic, unique self, to have your emotions basically cut off and not being expressed, that you have to be just plain, ordinary. That just really scares you. You want nothing to do with that because you fear that you, in your deeper core, there's something defective and flawed. And if you were just like everyone else, why would anyone take notice? Why would anyone love you and find value in you? And so you don't want to look like everyone else. You want to be able to stand out and to show your unique, most beautiful self. And that is good because God did create you in a very beautiful, dynamic way, just like the rest of us. And so we understand how your emotions are so deep rooted and go so far, and they're vast. And we want you to experience those and to express those. But we also want you to recognize that the Lord wants you to have those emotions. He wants you to have emotional balance. And so when you're able to get to that place, it's not that the Lord is tampering down or restricting your emotions. Your emotions are all there, they're intact, but they're at a more balanced place so that actually you will be expressing the true, authentic version of yourself, not out of fear, but out of radiance and joy. But it could even be a melancholy joy. It's you, right? So I know that the core fear of being misunderstood, people not seeing you, being defective and flawed, something's wrong. I know that is really deep rooted, but you're not. So when you're activated, think through, how did God create me uniquely? And how can I be okay just in that moment, just the way I am, knowing that I'm purely loved right where for who I am, and move forward towards people, trusting how Christ created you and made you special and unique. All right, fives. So your core fear is the fear of obligation, intrusion, annihilation, being incapable and incompetent, not knowledgeable enough, basically ignorant. These things will really trigger you and set you off, right? And so for the 5, what I want you to understand is, for you, you really get depleted by being around people too much. You have to kind of ration it out. And so this feeling of, oh my goodness, you're intruding on my space, I'm going to be depleted, can really activate certain qualities in the 5 to put up really strong boundaries that others can feel like, they don't like me, or wow, they must not like people. And that is just not the case. You're afraid that you will experience catastrophic depletion, and or that you may not have enough knowledge to get out of a certain circumstance, or have enough knowledge to move forward with confidence in something. Well, here's the thing. The Lord has given you a lot of wisdom and insight in a lot of variety of areas, way more than a lot of us. It is really remarkable what you have just at your fingertips, basically, or the top of your mind, to be able to know lots of things. I know it doesn't feel like it, and you feel like you're just on the verge of not having the information, and that this depletion or annihilation is about ready to happen. But take heart. The Holy Spirit will always bring back to mind the insights that you've already obtained, and even some maybe that you hadn't, and the conclusions he'll bring, or the concepts he'll bring to you. And to recognize that, yes, it does feel like you will have catastrophic depletion. And there is plenty of really good time to step away and to recharge. That isn't wrong. That's good. Christ did it. But to also trust him when he's calling you to step forward, to be in part of a community, to take part in that. And to, yes, there will be a fear of depletion, but trusting that he will bring forth in you a sense of renewal, because he is the spring of living water. He will refresh you and restore you. Hey, 6s. So your core fears is the fear of fear itself, being without security, guidance, and support. You also fear being blamed, targeted, and mainly getting in trouble. So for you, you have that inner community that we've talked about before that is constantly searching for possible worst case scenarios, what could happen, just potential mishaps. It doesn't have to be grandiose. It could be just anything. Your mind is firing on all cylinders all the time. And it's really giving you messages of, well, that could happen and that could happen. And it can get really kind of chaotic and confusing inside that produces a lot of fear. But what I really want you to recognize is that the inner committee is not the Holy Spirit. It is a way, we all have it to some degree, but the sixes for you guys, they're really loud. And so what we want you to recognize is, okay, let's pause and think through, am I being activated right now with all these fears and insecurities and self-doubt because something is really truly that way? Or do I have all the resources or things nearby that I can utilize from the Holy Spirit, that He's gifting me in a way that He's giving me insights that I don't need to be afraid of? And the fact that is usually the case most of the time. Sixes, you have a lot of tools ready right there before you. You're really ready for any scenario. I know it doesn't feel like it, but you've thought through so many things. Trust that the Holy Spirit has given you a lot of discernment and wisdom to engage life right where you're at. And that's a really important thing. Sixes, I need you to hear me, that you are the most courageous on the Enneagram. Now, you might be sitting there going, what? Yeah, you guys, you have these anxieties, this angst, this tension constantly. Now, it doesn't have to always be worst case scenario about safety. It could be about relationships, job, lots of different things. It doesn't have to always be about your safety. In fact, my husband is a counterphobic six, and he doesn't think about safety a lot, but he sure does think about his relationships with people. And that can really cause a lot of anxiety for him. But the Holy Spirit speaks directly to your true self, not the inner committee, your true self, and gives you wisdom right there and insight. Now, that could be through other people, that could be just from Him, it could be from the Word, it could be from a really good worship song. But He is going to speak directly to your heart. And when He does that, it gives you peace, assurance, and rest. So pause and think about how you're being activated. And is it the inner committee? Or can you hear the Holy Spirit bringing you calm and peace in the midst of the storm? All right, sevens, what are you afraid of? Well, the core fear of the seven is being trapped in emotional pain, boredom, limited, restricted, and definitely missing out on something fun, or the possibilities of something fun that you might not be aware of, right? Yeah. So sevens, I know that your heart is ready and excited for the next thing, the next exciting thing that can keep your mind going. And the fear that someone could keep that from you or make you have to go inward and to really dive into possible sorrow, sadness, anxiety, anything negative, especially boredom, sounds terrible. And that you're just ready to flee out at any moment. Now, going out and having fun and having excitement, like that is great. But at the same time, when it's overdone, it allows you to be an escapist and to not face the things that we really do need to face in life, right? There's some things in life that we just got to do. And so what I would suggest for you is to step back when you feel activated, like you're being trapped, you have no control over the situation, and asking yourself, is this really true? And is this your interpretation? And what else can you do in that circumstance in order to bridge the gap between fear of boredom and flying out and escaping to pausing and thinking through, you know what? Maybe this circumstance is actually a really good thing for me. It doesn't maybe feel great right now, but I really just need to be in this moment and to engage in it right where I'm at. And I think growth is really going to be right there. Now, sevens, you're probably like, oh my gosh, that sounds terrible. But it's really important because relationships can get really messy, but they're important. And so we don't want to escape from circumstances that might not be the most fun, the most exciting, or just really hard. But going through it and walking through that path can really deepen a relationship and make it so much more exciting. So when you get activated and you fear that your fear is happening, that you're being trapped and you can't have fun, pause, think, ask clarifying questions. Is this really true? Is this my personality perceiving the situation this way? And what can I do about it? Type eights, your core fear is to be harmed, controlled, manipulated, and to be at the mercy of injustice. You fear that you're going to be blindsided, betrayed, that people are going to take advantage of you, especially when you're vulnerable, or those that you love are vulnerable. You do not want those things to happen. So you put up a very strong front so that others will perceive the strong front and not harm or betray or blindside you. Now, this takes a lot of energy and effort, right? It's exhausting. You would love to know that you can lay down this strong exterior and just enjoy life if you knew that you weren't going to be harmed, betrayed, or blindsided, or left to injustice, right? So, what I really want you to understand is not everything is a battle. I know it feels like it probably is. You have to be on the defense and ready at any moment, but you can trust that Christ is really right there with you, and that there are some times that when there seems to be conflict or someone might harm you, it may not actually be what you think it is. And so it's good to pause, to take a step back, to really think and process, how is your personality perceiving and interpreting the situation, and is it accurate? A lot of times it's just our personality getting all fired up. Maybe asking clarifying questions before making assumptions and them wrongly, right? We call it a suicide. Asking clarifying questions and then reacting in a way that is much more helpful to the situation versus destructive. Okay. So Christ was always really at the helm of being betrayed, but he didn't have to allow it to make him react, right? Self control, the Holy Spirit can come in just like for Christ and to help you to not react in such a dynamic and visceral way. I know it feels like, how is that possible? Because when I'm activated, it's just really, it's like a fire in my belly and it comes out instantaneously. Yes, but the Holy Spirit can do all things. And so be mindful that he is right there with you. Ask clarifying questions, make sure your interpretation of the situation is spot on, and then react in a more gentle, calm, peaceable manner that is still eight strong like and still protective, but is not overpowering. All right, hope this helps, guys. Type nines, your core fear is the fear of conflict, tension, being in discord with others, any kind of inharmonious relationship. Being overlooked is a really painful thing. And definitely, like I said, conflict, but direct conflict towards you is definitely a core fear. A lot of nines can and will mediate conflict amongst other people, but they don't want the conflict then aimed right at them. So just to help you know kind of what's happening inside a nine is really wanting this peaceful, easy, calm, kind of like, there's a lake and it's just totally calm. That is what a nine is hoping for ourselves and everyone else. Like, let's all just get along. But when there's tension, nines have this radar and they can pick up tension, discord, something's off. They may not be able to put words to it, but in a room, they can tell something's going on. And it's very uncomfortable. It's like a 2-liter Coke inside that has the lid on it that's being shooken up really hard. And there's all that pressure and tension, and you're just afraid it's going to explode or something's going to happen. And you need it to calm down inside, whether it's for them and others. It's too big, it's too much, and it just feels like something really bad is going to happen. And for the nines, it's losing connection with others, relationship, having any kind of discord. They want everyone to be happy, to be able to get along with everyone else. And so the nines orientation is to look and see, what are your needs? How can I help accommodate to move towards you, to make everything smooth? And in a lot of ways, because they want to feel that themselves, and maybe they can't because of the circumstances. So just to let everyone else know why it's such a big deal for a 9 to have peace and harmony, just think about if your internal world was shooken up that much, the pressure, the intensity, the fear. Let your nines know that you now understand that you need to come to them in a softer, gentler, more understanding manner. Ask them clarifying questions so that they can navigate their relationship in a way that doesn't feel so threatening. But nines, we also need to realize that we don't have to fear conflict so much, that there are things that we can step into knowing that God is going to take care of us and the situation. Conflict isn't always bad. In fact, Christ met conflict right where it was at, and he can do that with us. So don't be so passive that you go away, you lose yourself in the process. Be able to enter conflict in a very calm but assertive way, and you will see many, many great things.